"Are you our daddy?" The question stopped my heart. I turned from my wife's gravestone to find two identical faces staring up at me. 7 years old, maybe 8, with dirt-smudged cheeks and hair that hadn't seen a brush in weeks. They wore mismatched clothes that hung too loose on their thin frames, and they clutched each other's hands like lifelines. You know, people always talk about karma, about justice, about how the universe has a way of bringing things full circle. They say that sometimes the answers to questions you've been asking in the dark come from the most unexpected places. Before we dive into this story, I hope you're doing well, wherever you're watching from. Maybe you're curled up on your couch, or maybe you're trying to distract yourself from something painful. Whatever the weather is like where you are, I hope you'll stay with me through this. I promise you, what happened to me that Tuesday afternoon in March changed everything I thought I knew about loss, love, and second chances. My name is Jonathan Reed. This is the story of how I went from a hollow man standing at his wife's grave, convinced my life was over, to discovering that sometimes God answers prayers in ways we never expected, and that the family we thought we'd lost forever can come back to us through doors we didn't even know existed. But I need you to do me a favor. If this story moves you, if it makes you feel something, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And please, leave a comment telling me what you think, because these stories, these real human experiences, they matter. They connect us. But let me start from the beginning. I was 34 years old when my wife died. 34 years old and convinced that I'd used up all my chances at happiness. Catherine and I had been married for 6 years. 6 years of the kind of love that made other people jealous. We'd built a software company from nothing, just the two of us in a cramped office, living on ramen and dreams. By the time she got sick, we were worth $47 million. The money meant nothing. I would have traded every cent to hear her laugh one more time. She'd wanted children so badly. We'd tried for 4 years. Fertility treatments, specialists, prayer, hope, disappointment, repeat. Month after month of watching her face fall when the pregnancy test came back negative. We'd just started the adoption process when she got the diagnosis. Ovarian cancer. Stage 4. They gave her 6 months. She lasted 8. I buried her on a Thursday in March, under an oak tree in Riverside Memorial Gardens. And for the next 3 months, I visited her grave every Tuesday and Thursday, the same days we used to have date nights. That's where I was when those 2 little girls appeared like ghosts, asking if I was their daddy. "I don't have children," I said, my voice rough. I hadn't spoken to anyone in hours. I came to the cemetery specifically to be alone. "Who are you?" "Mama said you'd be here," the one on the left said. She had a small scar above her right eyebrow. "She said to find the man who talks to Catherine Reed. She said to tell you. She said to tell you that she kept her promise." The other one finished. This one had a slight gap between her front teeth. "She said you'd understand." My legs went weak. I sat down hard on the marble bench next to Catherine's grave. "What's your mother's name?" "Stephanie Hartley," they said in unison, and the world tilted. Stephanie. Catherine's best friend since college. The woman who'd held my wife's hand through chemo. The woman who'd promised. Who'd stood in our living room 6 months before Catherine died and promised. "We'll find a way," Stephanie had said, gripping Catherine's frail hands. "I promise you, Cat. I promise." At the time, I thought she was just offering comfort. Catherine was too weak to pursue the adoption. We'd withdrawn our application. We'd accepted that we'd never be parents. But looking at these 2 little girls with their desperate eyes and 2 thin bodies, standing in front of my wife's grave, I felt something crack open in my chest. "Where's your mother?" I asked. "Where's Stephanie?" The girls looked at each other. Something passed between them, some silent twin communication. "She's sick," the one with the scar said quietly. "Really sick. She's in the hospital and they said she might not come home. And the social worker lady said we'd have to go to separate homes because nobody wants 2 kids at once. But Mama made us promise to stay together. She made us promise to find you." She said you'd been looking for us, the other one added. She said you'd been waiting for us for years, even if you didn't know it yet. I stood up slowly, trying to process what was happening. How did you get here? Does anyone know where you are? They exchanged another look. The gap-toothed one reached into her pocket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. Mama gave us bus money and wrote down the address. We waited until the social worker went to get coffee, and then we ran. I took the paper with shaking hands. It was covered in handwriting I recognized. Stephanie's looping scrawl, now trembling and weak. Jonathan, I'm so sorry. I should have told you sooner, but Kat made me promise to wait until the time was right. These are your daughters. Not by blood, but by every promise Kat and I ever made. Asterisk. When she knew she was dying, we made a plan. I'd adopt children for you. I'd raise them until they were old enough, and then I'd tell you. I'd give you the family she wanted so desperately to give you herself. Asterisk. I found Emma and Lily when they were 2 years old. Identical twins surrendered by a mother who couldn't care for them. I adopted them and I've loved them as my own, but I've also told them about you. I've told them about their other father, the one waiting for them. Asterisk. I thought I had more time. I thought I'd bring them to you when they were older, when you'd healed enough to accept this gift. But cancer doesn't care about plans. Took Kat, and now it's taking me. Asterisk. They know you. They've seen your picture. They know their Mama Catherine wanted them so badly. Please, Jonathan. Please don't let them be separated. They're yours. They've always been yours. Asterisk. Kat kept her promise. Through me, she gave you the children you both wanted. Asterisk. I'm sorry I couldn't do this right. I'm sorry I'm running out of time. Asterisk. Love them for both of us. Stephanie. I read the letter 3 times, standing there in the cemetery while 2 little girls watched me with eyes that held too much fear for their age. My hands were shaking so hard the paper rattled. Are you crying? The one with the scar, Emma, the letter said, asked softly. I hadn't cried since Catherine's funeral, but tears were streaming down my face. What's going to happen to us? Lily whispered. Are you going to send us back? I looked at them, really looked at them. Underneath the dirt and the fear, I could see it. They had Catherine's determination in the set of their jaws. They had that same fierce loyalty in the way they held each other's hands. And they had the shape of Stephanie's kindness in their worried eyes. My wife had done this. Even dying, even knowing she'd never meet them, Catherine had found a way to give me the family we dreamed about. No, I said, and my voice came out stronger than I expected. No, I'm not sending you anywhere. You're coming home with me. The relief that flooded their faces nearly broke me all over again. Really? Emma asked. Really? I said. But first we need to go to the hospital. We need to see your mother. Our Mama Stephanie, Lily clarified. She said we had 2 mamas. Mama Stephanie, who's raising us, and Mama Catherine, who's watching over us. That's right, I managed. And now you have a dad who's going to protect you. Both of you. Together. Always. They flew at me, wrapping their thin arms around my waist, and I held them while my heart shattered and rebuilt itself all at once. I had so many questions. About how Stephanie had managed this, about the legal implications, about how she'd kept this secret for 5 years. But standing there in the cemetery with my wife's grave at my back and her final gift in my arms, only one thing mattered. Catherine had kept her promise. And now I was going to keep mine. Let's go, I said, taking their hands. Let's go see Stephanie, and then let's go home. I didn't know it yet, but this was just the beginning. Because the truth about Emma and Lily, about why Stephanie really adopted them, about the secrets buried in their past, that truth was going to turn my entire world upside down. And it would all start with a simple DNA test and a news article I'd see 3 days later, about 2 missing heiresses and a fortune that had been searching for them for 5 years. But first, I had to learn how to be a father. The pediatric oncology ward smelled like antiseptic and fear. I held Emma and Lily's hands as we walked down the corridor, following the room number the nurse had given me after I'd explained who I was, or tried to explain. The conversation had been complicated. "I'm Jonathan Reed. I'm here to see Stephanie Hartley. Are you family?" She has my daughters with her. They're her daughters. Legally. But Emma had tugged on my sleeve. "Just tell her you're our dad. Mama Stephanie put you on the hospital list." Sure enough, when the nurse checked, my name was there. Stephanie had been planning for this. Room 847 was at the end of the hall. Through the small window in the door, I could see Stephanie propped up in bed, her face turned toward the window. She looked nothing like the vibrant woman who danced at my wedding 7 years ago. Cancer had carved her down to bones and determination. "You two wait here for just a minute," I said to the girls. "Let me talk to her first." They nodded, settling into the plastic chairs outside the room. I noticed how they immediately reached for each other's hands again. They did that constantly, I'd realized, like they needed the physical confirmation that the other one was still there. I pushed open the door. Stephanie's head turned, and when she saw me, her eyes filled with tears. "You found them. Or they found you." "Oh God, Jonathan. I'm so sorry. I told them to wait. I told them I'd take care of everything legally first. But they were scared," I said quietly, pulling a chair up to her bed. "They thought they were going to be separated." "Never," Stephanie said fiercely. Then she started coughing, deep racking sounds that shook her whole body. I grabbed the water cup and held the straw to her lips until the coughing subsided. "Sorry. The lung mets make everything harder." "How long have you known?" I asked. 6 months. I thought I had more time. I always thought I had more time." She looked toward the door, where Emma and Lily were visible through the window. "Are they okay?" "They're scared, confused. But they're together, and they're safe." I paused. "Stephanie, I need you to explain this to me. All of it. Catherine died 3 years ago. These girls, you've had them for 5 years. She nodded weakly. "Kat knew she was dying. The cancer was aggressive, and she knew. About 8 months before the end, she called me over one night while you were at the office. She was so weak, Jonathan, but she was determined." I remembered those nights. I'd started sleeping at the office because I couldn't bear to watch Catherine fade. I told myself I was working on securing our financial future, but really, I'd been a coward. "She said she couldn't leave you alone. She said you'd been so excited about becoming a father, and she couldn't stand the thought of that dream dying with her." Stephanie's voice cracked. "She made me promise that I'd find children who needed a home, that I'd adopt them and raise them until the time was right, and then I'd bring them to you. Why didn't you just tell me?" "Because you were grieving, Jonathan. For the first year after Kat died, you could barely function. You sold the company, you holed up in that big house, you pushed everyone away. If I'd shown up with 2 toddlers and said, 'Surprise, your dead wife arranged this,' what would you have done?" I didn't answer because she was right. I would have rejected it. I would have seen it as a betrayal, not a gift. "I was going to wait until they were 10, Stephanie continued. "I was going to wait until you'd healed more, until you'd started living again, and until they were old enough to understand the story. I've been telling them about you for years, about their dad Jonathan who was sad but who would love them so much when he met them, about their mama Catherine who picked them special, even from heaven." "They know about Catherine?" "Everything. I showed them pictures, told them stories. They know she's buried in Riverside Memorial, and they know you visit her there. That's how they found you today." Stephanie reached out and grabbed my hand with surprising strength. "I was going to make this right, Jonathan. I was going to do it properly. But then I got sick, and the social worker started talking about foster care, and I panicked. The letter said I'm not their legal father. Not yet. I have full custody, but I've prepared paperwork naming you as their guardian in the event of my death. My lawyer has it. It's all ready to file. I just need—" She coughed again. "I just need a few more weeks to get everything in order." "Stephanie." I squeezed her hand gently. "How long do you have?" "Days. Maybe a week." She said it so matter-of-factly. "The cancer's in my liver, my lungs, my bones. They've made me comfortable, but there's nothing else they can do." Through the window, I watched Emma and Lily. They were playing some sort of hand game, trying to stay distracted. They'd already lost one mother. Now they were about to lose another. "Tell me about them," I said. "Tell me everything." For the next hour, Stephanie talked. She told me how she'd found the girls through a private adoption agency. Their birth mother had been 17, addicted to drugs, and unable to care for twins. She told me about Emma's love of books and Lily's talent for drawing. She told me about their nightmares and their favorite foods and the way they finished each other's sentences. "They're extraordinary," she said. "They're smart and kind and so brave. And Jonathan, they want to love you. I've made sure of that. They've been waiting for you their whole lives." "I don't know how to be a father," I admitted. "I don't know the first thing about raising children, let alone two girls who've been through so much. You learn. You figure it out. You love them, and you figure out the rest." Stephanie's eyes were starting to close. The medication was kicking in. "There's a social worker, Rebecca Chin. She's been assigned to the girls' case. You'll need to contact her tomorrow. The paperwork is complicated, but my lawyer will help. And Jonathan." "Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for not running. Thank you for being the man Cat always knew you were." I left her sleeping and went back to the girls. They looked up at me with identical expressions of hope and fear. "Can we see her?" Emma asked. "She's resting right now. But yes, soon." I crouched down to their level. "Listen, I need to ask you both something important. Do you want to come home with me? Because if you do, we're going to have to do this right. There's going to be paperwork and lawyers and people asking a lot of questions. It might take some time. But I promise you, I will not let anyone separate you. Ever. Do you understand?" "You promise?" Lily asked. "I promise." They looked at each other, having another one of those silent conversations. Then Emma turned back to me. "Mama Stephanie said you were the richest man she knew. She said you could buy us anything we wanted." My heart sank a little. Of course. They were children who'd had nothing. Of course they'd care about money. "I have money, yes," I said carefully. "But do you have enough to make Mama Stephanie better?" Lily interrupted, and just like that, my heart broke all over again. "Oh, sweetheart, no. I'm sorry, but no amount of money can fix what's wrong with Stephanie. I wish it could." Emma's face crumpled. "Then what good is being rich?" I pulled them both into a hug. "Being rich means I can make sure you have everything you need. A home, good schools, security. But it doesn't make me a good dad. That's something I'm going to have to earn by showing up for you every single day. Can you give me a chance to try?" They nodded against my shoulders. We spent another 2 hours at the hospital. The girls got to sit with Stephanie for a while, and I watched through the window as she held them, whispering things I couldn't hear, making them promises she wouldn't be able to keep, saying goodbye in the only way she could. When we finally left, the sun was setting. I called my lawyer from the hospital cafeteria and explained the situation. He'd been shocked but efficient, promising to contact Stephanie's attorney first thing in the morning. "Mr. Reed," it was the social worker, Rebecca Chin, hurrying down the hall toward us. "I need to speak with you." My stomach dropped. "Is this about the girls?" "Yes. They ran away from their group home this afternoon. I've been searching everywhere." She looked down at Emma and Lily with relief and frustration. "Girls, you can't just leave like that. You scared me half to death." "We had to find our dad," Emma said defiantly. Rebecca looked at me with confusion. "I'm sorry. Who are you exactly?" "Jonathan Reed. It's complicated. Stephanie Hartley named me as the girl's guardian in her will. My lawyer is getting in touch with her lawyer tomorrow to start the paperwork. You're not currently their legal guardian? Not yet, but then I'm afraid the girls need to come with me. They'll return to the group home until the custody situation is resolved. No! Lily grabbed my hand. You promised we wouldn't be separated. They won't be separated, Rebecca assured her. You'll stay together at the group home. For how long? I demanded. Until the court approves the guardianship. Could be a few days, could be a few weeks. It depends on how complicated the case is. Emma was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. Please don't make us go. Please. Mama Stephanie said. I know what she said, honey, but there are rules. Mr. Reed isn't approved as a foster parent. We can't just hand children over to someone without proper vetting. I wanted to argue. I wanted to pull out my phone and call my lawyer and make this woman understand that I had the resources to fight this. But I looked at the girls' terrified faces and realized that causing a scene would only traumatize them more. It's going to be okay, I said, kneeling down. This is just temporary. I'm going to fix this as fast as I can. And I meant what I said. I won't let you be separated, and I won't let you down. Do you believe me? They didn't answer. They just clung to each other, and I had to watch as Rebecca Chun led them away down the hospital corridor, their thin shoulders shaking with sobs. I went back to Stephanie's room. She was awake again, staring at the ceiling. They took them, I said. I know. I heard. She turned to look at me, and there was something in her expression I couldn't quite read. Jonathan, there's something I need to tell you. About the girls. About where they really came from. What do you mean? You said private adoption. I lied. She said it flatly. Or rather, I didn't tell you the whole truth. And you need to know because when this comes out, and it will come out, you need to be prepared. Cold dread settled in my stomach. Stephanie, what did you do? 5 years ago, there was a case all over the news. A wealthy couple, tech investors, died in a car accident. They had twin daughters, 2 years old. The grandparents were fighting over custody, but both sets were deemed unfit. Drug problems, criminal records. The children disappeared into the foster system while the courts tried to sort out the estate. I remembered the case vaguely. It had been big news for a while. Those children had a trust fund worth $30 million, Stephanie continued. But they vanished. The foster family who had them claimed they ran away, but there was an investigation. Some people thought the kids had been kidnapped. Some thought they were dead. The case went cold. My blood turned to ice. Stephanie, tell me those children aren't. Emma and Lily Thornton, she said. Daughters of David and Margaret Thornton. Missing for 5 years. And yes, Jonathan, they're your girls. The room spun. You kidnapped them? No. God, no. I adopted them legally, but I used a false identity. I claimed they were children from a closed adoption, and I had forged paperwork. I know how it sounds, but Jonathan, you have to understand, those grandparents didn't want the girls. They wanted the money. The foster family they were placed with was awful. I was doing child welfare assessments at the time, and I saw Emma with bruises. I saw how terrified they were. So you stole them. I saved them, and I told myself I'd make it right eventually. I'd come forward when they were older, when they could tell their own story about the abuse they'd suffered. But then I got sick, and I ran out of time. I stood up, backing away from the bed. Do you have any idea what you've done? When this comes out, I'll lose them. They'll be taken away and given to those grandparents you're so worried about, and I'll probably be arrested as an accessory. No, listen, the grandparents are both dead now. Died within the last year. There's no family left except some distant cousins who've never even met the girls. The estate is still in probate. If you come forward with them, if you prove they're alive, you can petition for guardianship. You have the resources to fight for them, and you have my testimony about why I did what I did. Your testimony from beyond the grave? Stephanie, you'll be dead before this goes to court. She flinched like I'd hit her. I know, and I'm sorry. But Jonathan, those girls deserve that trust fund. They deserve their real identity. And they deserve you. You're the only person who wants them for them, not for their money. Please, please don't abandon them because I made mistakes trying to protect them. I sank back into the chair, my head in my hands. I need to think. I need to, God, I don't know what I need. You need to be their father. That's all. Everything else we figure out one step at a time. But as I left the hospital that night, my mind was reeling. I'd gone to my wife's grave that morning as a man with nothing left to live for. I was ending the day as the potential father of 2 kidnapped heiresses, with a dead woman's confession ringing in my ears and a legal nightmare stretching out before me. And the worst part? Despite everything, despite the lies and the legal jeopardy and the sheer insanity of the situation, I already loved those 2 little girls. Catherine had promised me children. She just failed to mention they'd come with a felony and a trust fund. I drove home to my empty house, and for the first time in 3 years, I prayed. Not for understanding, not for comfort, just for the strength to keep the promise I'd made to 2 scared little girls in a hospital hallway. The promise that I wouldn't let them down. The call came at 2 in the morning. I jerked awake in my bedroom, heart pounding, grabbing for the phone on my nightstand. Unknown number. Hello, Mr. Reed? This is County General Hospital. Stephanie Hartley passed away an hour ago. She listed you as her emergency contact. We need you to come in and handle some paperwork. I sat there in the dark, phone pressed to my ear, processing words I'd known were coming but somehow still wasn't prepared for. Mr. Reed, I'll be there in 20 minutes. I dressed in the dark, pulling on jeans and a shirt, my hands shaking. Stephanie was dead. The only person who could corroborate the story about Emma and Lily, about why she'd done what she'd done, gone. And those girls were waking up in a group home without any idea that their second mother had just died. The drive to the hospital was a blur. The paperwork was worse, forms and signatures and decisions about remains that felt surreal. Stephanie had prepared everything, of course. She'd arranged her own cremation, prepaid everything. Even in death, she was trying to make things easier. She left this for you, the nurse said, handing me a manila envelope. Made me promise to give it to you personally, not mail it or anything. Inside were 3 things: a USB drive, a handwritten letter, and a key. I read the letter standing in the hospital corridor at 3 in the morning, under fluorescent lights that made everything feel even more nightmarish. Jonathan, asterisk if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I didn't have more time. I'm sorry I didn't do this better. Asterisk. Asterisk the USB drive contains everything. My personal journals from the last 5 years, documentation of the abuse Emma and Lily suffered in their first foster home, evidence of why I made the choices I made. There are also videos. I recorded myself telling the girls about their real parents, about their trust fund, about everything. I wanted them to hear it from me even if I'm not there. Asterisk. Asterisk the key is to a safe deposit box at First National Bank, box 847. Inside you'll find the girls' original birth certificates, medical records, and all the legal documents related to their case. You'll also find $50,000 in cash, emergency money in case you need to move quickly or hire lawyers before you can access your own accounts. Asterisk. Asterisk I know what I'm asking you to do is impossible. Come forward with kidnapped children and hope the system doesn't destroy all of you in the process. But Jonathan, you have advantages I never had. You have money, connections, lawyers. You have respectability. And most importantly, you have nothing to hide. You didn't know about any of this until yesterday. Asterisk. Asterisk tell the truth. All of it. Show them the evidence of abuse. Fight for those girls like their mama Catherine would have fought. And please, please make sure they know that every choice I made because I love them. Asterisk. Asterisk I failed them by dying. Don't fail them by giving up. Asterisk. Asterisk one more thing. Contact my lawyer, Thomas Wright, first thing in the morning. I've left him instructions. He knows everything, and he's prepared to help you navigate this. He's a good man. Trust him. Asterisk. Asterisk. Thank you for loving my girls. Thank you for being the father they deserve. Asterisk. Stephanie. Asterisk. Emma's nightmares are about water. She almost drowned in the bathtub at the first foster home. She needs a nightlight and the bathroom door left open. Lily picks at her fingernails when she's anxious. Keep her hands busy with drawing or puzzles. They both hate green beans but will eat any other vegetable if you put cheese on it. And they need to hear "I love you" every single day multiple times. They need to hear it until they believe it. Asterisk. I read the letter 3 times, then folded it carefully and put it back in the envelope. The girls had lost their birth parents at 2 years old. They'd suffered abuse in foster care. They'd been rescued by a woman who loved them enough to commit a federal crime. They'd spent 5 years in hiding, being raised by someone who knew she was dying. And now Stephanie was gone, and they were about to lose their third mother figure in 8 years. Unless I could somehow pull off a miracle. I went straight from the hospital to the bank, waiting in my car until they opened at 9. The safe deposit box contained exactly what Stephanie had promised: documentation, cash, and the truth about Emma and Lily Thornton. Looking at their birth certificates, seeing their real names in black and white, made everything suddenly real. These weren't just 2 homeless girls who'd shown up at Catherine's grave. They were heirs to a fortune, missing children, and the center of a cold case that had captivated the nation 5 years ago. And I was about to walk into a firestorm. I called Thomas Wright from the parking lot. "Mr. Reed," he answered on the first ring. "I've been expecting your call. I'm very sorry about Stephanie. She told you everything?" "Everything. And I've been preparing for this moment for the last 6 months, since she got her terminal diagnosis. I need you to listen very carefully. The next 72 hours are going to determine the entire trajectory of this case." "I'm listening." "First, you need to contact Rebecca Chen and inform her of Stephanie's death. The girls will need to be told, and as their designated guardian, you should be there for that conversation. Second, we need to file the guardianship paperwork immediately, today, before anyone else can step in. Third, and this is the most important part, we need to decide whether to reveal the girl's true identity now or wait until after the guardianship is secured. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. What's the right move? There is no right move, only calculated risks. If we reveal their identity now, before you have legal guardianship, the state might remove them from your care entirely while they investigate. The media circus alone could be traumatic for them. But if we wait and it comes out later that you knew and didn't say anything, it could be used against you in court. You could be accused of conspiracy. What would you do? I'd tell the truth. I'd do it strategically with lawyers present and a plan in place, but I'd tell it. Because Jonathan, those girls have been living a lie for 5 years. They deserve to know who they really are. And that trust fund? That's their birthright. Every day we delay is a day someone else could be mismanaging it. He was right. I knew he was right. Set it up, I said. Contact Rebecca Chen. Set up a meeting for this afternoon, you, me, her, and whoever else needs to be in the room. We're going to tell them everything. Are you sure? Once we do this, there's no going back. I'm sure. Those girls asked me if I was their daddy. It's time I started acting like it. I spent the morning preparing. I watched the video Stephanie had recorded. Tearful explanations to Emma and Lily about their real parents, about the accident that killed them, about the trust fund waiting for them. She'd done it gently, using language they could understand, making it clear that she'd hidden them to protect them, not to hurt them. In one video, recorded just 2 weeks ago when Stephanie could barely sit up, she spoke directly to me. Jonathan, if you're watching this, it means I'm gone and you're trying to figure out what to do. Let me make it simple. Those girls are worth more than any amount of money. They're smart and brave and kind, and they deserve everything. Fight for them. Not for the trust fund, not for Catherine's memory, but for them. Because they're extraordinary, and they need someone who sees that. I watched her thin, dying face on the screen and felt rage and gratitude in equal measure. Rage that she'd put me in this impossible position. Gratitude that she'd loved the girls enough to try. The meeting was set for 2 o'clock at the Department of Child Services. Thomas Wright met me in the parking lot, carrying a briefcase full of documents. "Ready?" he asked. "No, but let's do it anyway." Rebecca Chun was already in the conference room, along with her supervisor, a stern-looking woman named Patricia Morrison, and a detective I hadn't expected, Detective Marcus Hill, from the Missing Persons Division. My stomach dropped. "Mr. Reed," Patricia said, "please sit down. We have some concerns about your petition for guardianship." "What kind of concerns?" Thomas asked, taking the lead. "The kind where we run a background check on the biological mother listed on the adoption papers and discover she doesn't exist," Detective Hill said flatly. "The kind where we dig deeper and find that those adoption papers are forgeries. The kind where we start wondering if the children in question are who Ms. Hartley claimed they were." The room went very quiet. Thomas opened his briefcase. "Actually, Detective, that's why we're here. We have information about the true identity of Emma and Lily, and we're prepared to share everything we know." For the next hour, we laid it all out. The USB drive, the documents, the birth certificates, Stephanie's written confession and her reasons for doing what she'd done, the evidence of abuse in the first foster home. Everything. Detective Hill's expression went from skepticism to shock to something that might have been understanding. "Let me get this straight," he said slowly. "Stephanie Hartley kidnapped Emma and Lily Thornton 5 years ago because she witnessed abuse in their foster placement, and she's been hiding them ever since. And you knew nothing about this until yesterday." "That's correct," I said. "And now you want guardianship of 2 missing children who are heirs to a $30 million trust fund. I want guardianship of 2 little girls who have lost everyone they've ever loved and who deserve stability and safety. The money is irrelevant." "The money is never irrelevant, Mr. Reed." Rebecca spoke up. "I've met the girls. They clearly have a bond with Mr. Reed. And given that there's no living family to contest custody." "There's the estate," Detective Hill interrupted. "There are lawyers managing that trust who are going to have a lot of questions. There are investors who were business partners with the Thorntons who might claim guardianship. And there's the small matter of a federal kidnapping case that's been open for 5 years. Stephanie Hartley is dead," Thomas said. "She can't be prosecuted. And Mr. Reed had no knowledge of or participation in her actions. He's a victim of this situation as much as the children are." "Is he?" Patricia asked quietly. "Mr. Reed, I need to ask you directly. Did you have any contact with Stephanie Hartley between your wife's death and yesterday?" "No. She sent me a card after Catherine's funeral. I never responded. I pushed everyone away." "And your wife never mentioned this plan to you?" "Never. If she had, I would have stopped it. I would have—" My voice cracked. "I would have done things differently." Rebecca was watching me with something that looked like sympathy. "The girls are going to need to be told about Stephanie's death, and they're going to need to learn their real names. This is going to be traumatic however we handle it." "I want to be there," I said. "When you tell them, they trust me, and they're going to need someone they trust." "That's not protocol," Patricia began, but Detective Hill raised a hand. "Let him be there. Those kids have been through enough. If having him there makes it even slightly easier, I'm not going to be the one to say no." It was decided that we'd go to the group home immediately. The girls would be told about Stephanie's death first, and then, when they were ready, about their real identity. I rode in Rebecca's car, silent and terrified. I'd only known Emma and Lily for 1 day. 1 single day, and already the thought of their pain was unbearable. The group home was a converted house in a quiet neighborhood. Not terrible, but institutional. The kind of place where children existed but didn't quite live. Emma and Lily were in the common room, sitting together on a worn couch. They looked up when we walked in, and their faces lit up when they saw me. "You came back," Lily said, running to me. Emma was right behind her. "I promised I would," I said, kneeling down. "But girls, we need to talk. Ms. Rebecca has something she needs to tell you." They looked at her, and I watched the hope drain from their faces. They knew. Somehow they already knew. "It's Mama Stephanie, isn't it?" Emma whispered. Rebecca nodded gently. "She passed away very peacefully early this morning. She wasn't in any pain, and the nurses said she was thinking about you both right until the end." Lily made a sound like a wounded animal and buried her face in my shoulder. Emma just stood there, frozen, her eyes going distant. "Girls," I said softly, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." "Everyone leaves," Emma said tonelessly. "Everyone always leaves." "I'm not going to leave," I said. "I promise you, I'm not going anywhere." "You can't promise that. People die. People always die." She wasn't wrong. I pulled them both close. "You're right. I can't promise I won't die. But I can promise that as long as I'm alive, I will be here for you. Every single day. No matter what." We sat there on the floor of that group home while they cried. Rebecca gave us privacy, and I just held them, these two little girls who'd lost so much and who somehow still had the courage to hope. Eventually, Emma pulled back and looked at me with red, swollen eyes. "What's going to happen to us now?" "Well," I said carefully, "there are some things we need to talk about. Things about who you are and where you came from. But not right now. Right now, we're just going to sit here and we're going to be sad together and we're going to remember Stephanie. Okay? Will you tell us about Mama Catherine?" Lily asked. "Mama Stephanie said you could tell us better than she could. So I did. I sat in that group home and told them about the woman who'd loved them before they even existed. About her laugh and her terrible cooking and her absolute determination to make the world better. About how much she'd wanted children, and how she'd made Stephanie promise to find a way." "She sounds nice," Emma said quietly. "She was the best person I ever knew," I said. "And she picked you. Both of you. Stephanie told me that Catherine had very specific requirements. She wanted twins, because she'd always wanted them. She wanted girls, because she wanted to raise strong women. And she wanted children who needed love as much as she needed to give it. You were exactly what she was looking for." "Even though she never met us?" Lily asked. "She met you in her heart. And someday, when you're older, I'll show you the journal she kept where she wrote letters to her future children. She wrote to you, even though she knew she'd never get to meet you. She told you all her hopes and dreams for you. That wasn't entirely true. Catherine's journal was full of pain and loss. Not hopes for children she'd never have. But Stephanie had created something better. She'd loved these girls in Catherine's name, and that was its own kind of truth." Later that evening, after the girls had cried themselves into exhausted sleep on the group home couch, Rebecca pulled me aside. "They're going to need therapy," she said. "Serious, long-term therapy. The trauma they've experienced, losing their birth parents, abuse, being hidden, losing Stephanie, and now learning their real identity. It's going to take years to process. I'll get them the best therapists money can buy." "Money isn't always the answer, Mr. Reed." "I know, but it helps. And right now, I need every advantage I can get." She studied me for a long moment. "You really care about them, don't you? This isn't about the trust fund or obligation or guilt." "I met them yesterday," I said. "1 day ago, they showed up at my wife's grave and asked if I was their daddy. And in that 1 day, they've become the most important thing in my life. So yes, I really care about them. More than I thought possible." Rebecca nodded slowly. "Then fight for them, Mr. Reed. Because starting tomorrow, when the news breaks about who they really are, everyone is going to come out of the woodwork claiming they should raise the Thornton twins. Fight for them, and don't stop fighting until they're legally yours." I looked through the doorway at Emma and Lily, curled together on that couch. their hands still linked even in sleep. "I will," I said. "Whatever it takes." That night, I went home and called my team of lawyers, not just Thomas Wright, but the most aggressive family law attorney in the state, a media consultant, and a private investigator. If this was going to become a battle, I was going to be prepared. Because tomorrow, I was going to hold a press conference and reveal that the missing Thornton twins had been found. And then all hell was going to break loose. The press conference was scheduled for 10 in the morning. By 9:30, the media had already descended on Thomas Wright's law office like vultures. Camera crews, reporters with microphones, photographers jostling for position. The missing Thornton twins had been major news 5 years ago, and their reappearance was going to be even bigger. I stood in Thomas's office, straightening my tie for the 5th time, watching the circus through the window. "You don't have to do this," Thomas said. "We could release a written statement. Let the lawyers handle the media." "No. People need to see that I'm not hiding. They need to see that I'm telling the truth. They're going to crucify you. You know that, right?" Single billionaire suddenly shows up with 2 missing heiresses. The optics are terrible. Let them crucify me. As long as Emma and Lily are safe, I don't care what people say. But I did care. Of course I cared. I'd spent 3 years as a recluse, and now I was about to throw myself into a media firestorm that would pick apart every aspect of my life. My phone buzzed. "Rebecca Chin. The girls are asking for you," she said without preamble. "I told them you were busy today, but Emma had a panic attack this morning and Lily won't eat. They need to see you." My heart clenched. "I'll be there right after the press conference. Make it fast. Emma's convinced you're not coming back." The press conference was brutal. I stood at a podium with Thomas on one side and Detective Hill on the other, reading from a prepared statement about how Stephanie Hartley had revealed the truth about the girl's identity before her death, how I'd immediately contacted authorities, and how I was now petitioning for legal guardianship. Then came the questions, shouted rapid fire from a dozen reporters at once. "Mr. Reed, did you have any involvement in the original disappearance?" "No." "Did your late wife have involvement?" "No." Stephanie Hartley acted alone. "Why should you get custody instead of the state appointing a guardian?" "Because those girls have lost everyone they've ever loved, and they need stability. They need someone who wants them for who they are, not what they're worth." Speaking of what they're worth, what happens to the trust fund if you get guardianship? The trust fund belongs to Emma and Lily Thornton. I have my own money. I don't need theirs. But you'd have control of it as their guardian. Thomas stepped in. "There will be court-appointed oversight of the trust. Mr. Reed won't have unilateral access to the girl's money." "What about the allegations of abuse in the foster home? Can you prove that happened?" "We have medical records and Stephanie Hartley's documentation," I said. "The original foster parents are currently being investigated." "Did you know Stephanie Hartley was dying when she told you about the girls?" "Yes. Some people are saying this is convenient timing, that she dumped a problem in your lap right before dying." I gripped the podium. Stephanie Hartley loved those girls more than her own life. She sacrificed everything to keep them safe. Her timing wasn't convenient, it was tragic. She ran out of time to do this right, so she did the best she could with the time she had left. And you expect us to believe that you, a billionaire with no previous interest in children, suddenly want to raise 2 traumatized little girls out of the goodness of your heart? "I don't care what you believe," I said, and I meant it. Those girls lost their birth parents, suffered abuse, lost the woman who saved them, and now they're facing losing another person they trust. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen. If that makes me suspicious to you, so be it. The press conference lasted 45 minutes. By the time it was over, I was exhausted and angry, and the look on Thomas's face told me I'd made mistakes. "You were too emotional," he said in the car. "Too defensive. You should have let me handle more of it." I was honest. "That's going to have to be enough." My phone was blowing up with messages. Some supportive, some vicious. The internet had apparently already decided I was either a saint or a predator with no middle ground. I ignored all of it and drove straight to the group home. Emma and Lily were in the small bedroom they'd been assigned, sitting on twin beds that faced each other. Emma's face was blotchy from crying, and Lily's fingernails were bitten down to the quick. "You came," Emma said, and the relief in her voice gutted me. "I promised I would." I sat on the floor between their beds. "I'm sorry I took so long. I had to do something difficult this morning." "We saw you on TV," Lily said quietly. "In the common room." Ms. Rebecca tried to turn it off, but we saw. My stomach dropped. They'd watched the press conference. They'd heard the reporters questioning my motives, suggesting I was using them. "Do you want to talk about what you heard?" I asked carefully. "They said our real names are Emma and Lily Thornton," Emma said. "Not the names Mama Stephanie gave us." "That's right. Your birth parents were David and Margaret Thornton. They died in a car accident when you were 2 years old." "We don't remember them," Lily whispered. "That's okay. You were very young. The TV people said we have money. Lots of money." "You do. Your parents left you a trust fund. When you turn 18, you'll inherit about $30 million. Maybe more, depending on how it's been invested." They looked at each other, and I could see them processing this information. They'd spent the last few days thinking they were homeless orphans with nothing. Now they were heiresses. "Is that why you want us?" Emma asked. "Because we have money?" There it was, the question I'd been dreading. "No," I said firmly. "I want you because when you showed up at my wife's grave and asked if I was your daddy, my heart woke up for the first time in 3 years. I want you because you're brave and smart and you deserve someone who will fight for you. I want you because my wife, your Mama Catherine, wanted you so badly that she made plans from her deathbed to make sure you'd be loved. And I want you because in the one day I've known you, you've already made my life mean something again." "But we don't know you," Lily said. "Not really. Mama Stephanie told us about you, but we don't know if you're nice or mean or if you'll get tired of us." "You're right. You don't know me yet. That's why I'm asking you to give me a chance to show you. And if at any point you decide this isn't working, if you decide you don't want to live with me, we'll figure something else out. I'm not going to force you into anything." "The TV people said there might be a custody battle," Emma said. "What does that mean?" I chose my words carefully. "It means that other people might try to claim they should be your guardians instead of me. People who knew your birth parents or people who want to manage your trust fund. There might be lawyers and judges and a lot of complicated grown-up stuff. But through all of it, I want you to know that I'm going to keep fighting for you, no matter how long it takes." "What if we have to go live with someone else?" Lily asked, her voice small. "Then I'll make sure they're good people who will take care of you, and I'll make sure you two stay together. That's non-negotiable." They were quiet for a moment. Then Emma said, "Mama Stephanie left us something. Ms. Rebecca gave it to us this morning." She pulled out a tablet from under her pillow. On the screen was a paused video. Stephanie's face, thin and weak but smiling. "She made videos," Emma explained, "for us to watch after she died. She told us about our real parents, about how they loved us, and she told us about you. Can I see?" They nodded and Lily pressed play. Stephanie's recorded voice filled the small room. "My darling girls, if you're watching this, it means I'm gone, and I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't stay longer. I'm sorry I couldn't see you grow up. But I need you to listen to me very carefully." The girls moved to sit on either side of me, and we watched together. "Your birth parents loved you so much. Your Mama Margaret used to call you her miracle babies because she'd been told she couldn't have children, and then you came along. Your daddy David would sing you to sleep every night. He had a terrible voice, but you didn't care. You'd giggle and giggle. When they died, it broke my heart because I knew they'd wanted so much more time with you." Tears were streaming down Lily's face. Emma was stoic, but her hand found mine and gripped tight. The people who were supposed to take care of you after that hurt you instead, Stephanie continued. And I couldn't let that happen. So I took you somewhere safe, even though I knew it was wrong. I've spent 5 years loving you and protecting you, and I don't regret a single second. Now you're going to meet Jonathan. He's going to seem like a stranger at first, but give him a chance. He's been hurt too. He lost his wife, your mama Catherine, and it broke something in him. But you girls, you can help fix that brokenness. You can help each other heal. He's a good man, a really good man. He's going to be scared because he's never been a father before. He's going to make mistakes, but he's going to love you with everything he has, just like your birth parents did, just like I did. Let him. Please, let him. The video ended, and the room was silent except for the sound of crying. Theirs and mine. She really believed in you, Emma said finally. I hope I can live up to that, I said honestly. Over the next few days, the media storm grew worse. Someone leaked details about Stephanie's confession, and suddenly she was being painted as either a hero or a criminal depending on which news channel you watched. The foster parents from the first placement were arrested on child abuse charges, which vindicated Stephanie's actions to some people and made her look like a vigilante to others. And then the custody challenges started. First was a distant cousin of the Thorntons, a man named Gregory Chin who I'd never heard of but who suddenly appeared claiming he had a right to raise the girls. My investigators discovered he was $500,000 in debt and had a gambling problem. Then came a former business partner of David Thornton's, claiming that David had once mentioned wanting him to be the girls' godfather. That fell apart when we found emails proving they'd had a major falling out years before the twins were born. But the real threat came from an unexpected source. Margaret Thornton's college roommate, a woman named Diane Sheffield, filed a petition for guardianship. Unlike the others, she had a real case. She was financially stable, married with 2 children of her own, and she had photos and letters proving she'd been close to Margaret. She's credible, Thomas told me grimly, and she's arguing that the girls should be with someone who actually knew their mother. Someone who can tell them stories and show them pictures and give them a connection to their past. I can do that, I said. I'll hire people who knew the Thorntons. I'll make sure the girls learn everything about their parents. It's not the same, and you know it. He was right. Diane Sheffield had something I didn't, a genuine connection to the girls' history. The custody hearing was set for 3 weeks out. In the meantime, I was granted supervised visitation with Emma and Lily twice a week for 2 hours at a time. It wasn't enough. 2 hours twice a week to build a relationship strong enough to convince a judge I should be their father. 2 hours to compete with a woman who had actual memories of their birth mother. But I made those hours count. I brought photo albums that Catherine had made. Even though they weren't of the girls, they were of the family she dreamed of having. I brought art supplies for Lily and books for Emma. I brought stories about Catherine and Stephanie and all the love that had brought us to this moment. And slowly, painfully slowly, we began to build something real. Do you think we'll have to testify? Emma asked during one visit. In court, I mean. Probably, I said honestly. The judge will want to talk to you about what you want. What if we say we want to stay with you and the judge says no anyway? Then I'll appeal. I'll keep fighting. But Emma, you need to understand something. If this Diane woman ends up being better for you, if she can give you something I can't, I'm not going to stand in the way of what's best for you. You mean you'd give up? I mean I'd put you first. Always. Even if it breaks my heart. She thought about that for a long time. Then she said, Mama Stephanie used to say that loving someone means wanting them to be happy, even if it's not with you. She was a smart woman. But I think we'd be happiest with you, Lily said quietly. You make us feel safe. Mama Stephanie said that's the most important thing. Feeling safe. I pulled them into a hug, hoping desperately that safe would be enough. The night before the custody hearing, I couldn't sleep. I paced my empty house, rehearsing what I'd say to the judge, imagining every possible outcome. 3 in the morning, my phone rang. Rebecca Chin. "Mr. Reed, you need to get to the hospital." Emma collapsed at the group home. "They're running tests now, but it looks like—" Her voice caught. "It looks like she might have the same condition that killed her birth mother. A congenital heart defect. If she does, she's gonna need surgery. Soon." I was in my car before she finished talking, racing through empty streets toward the hospital where, once again, my entire world was about to change. Because Emma had a heart condition, just like Margaret Thornton had, just like the mother she'd never known. And suddenly the custody battle became about much more than who could provide a better home. It became about who could keep her alive. The pediatric cardiology unit was too quiet. I'd learned to hate that quiet. The kind that meant something serious was happening behind closed doors while you waited helplessly in a corridor that smelled of disinfectant and fear. Rebecca met me at the nurse's station, her face drawn. "They're still running tests. Lily's with her, but Emma's asking for you." "What happened?" "She was having a nightmare. Woke up screaming. Couldn't catch her breath." The night supervisor thought it was just panic. But then Emma collapsed. Her lips turned blue. The paramedics said her heart rate was erratic, over 200 beats per minute. My own heart felt like it was trying to escape my chest. "Where is she?" Rebecca led me to a room where Emma lay in a hospital bed that made her look impossibly small. Lily sat beside her, holding her sister's hand with white knuckles. Both girls' faces lit up when they saw me. "You came," Emma whispered. She had oxygen tubes in her nose and electrode patches covering her chest. "Of course I came." I moved to the other side of the bed, taking Emma's free hand. "How are you feeling?" "Tired. Scared. The doctors keep asking questions about our real mom and dad." A cardiologist entered before I could respond. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, according to her badge. She was younger than I expected, with kind eyes that had seen too much. "Mr. Reed, I need to speak with you about Emma's condition. Can we talk here? I don't want to leave her." Dr. Okonkwo glanced at the girls, then nodded. "Emma, Lily, I'm going to use some big medical words, but I'll explain everything after. Okay?" They nodded, and I appreciated that she wasn't trying to exclude them from their own medical crisis. Emma has a condition called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. It's a genetic disorder where the heart muscle becomes abnormally thick, making it harder for the heart to pump blood. In Emma's case, it's severe enough that she had what we call a supraventricular tachycardia episode. Her heart was beating so fast it couldn't fill with blood properly. "Is it the same thing that killed her mother?" I asked, remembering the medical records from the safe deposit box. "Yes, Margaret Thornton died of sudden cardiac arrest caused by the same condition. She was 28 years old, which means she likely had a less severe variant than Emma does. The fact that Emma's showing symptoms this young is concerning." My hand tightened on Emma's. "What does that mean?" "It means Emma needs surgery. We need to perform a septal myectomy. Essentially, we remove part of the thickened heart muscle to improve blood flow. It's a major operation, but the success rate is very good, especially in children." "And if we don't do the surgery?" Dr. Okonkwo's expression was grave. "Then Emma is at high risk for sudden cardiac death. The same thing that happened tonight could happen again, and next time we might not get her here in time." Lily made a small, frightened sound. Emma's face had gone very pale. "What about me?" Lily asked. "Do I have it too?" "We need to test you. Since it's genetic and you're identical twins, there's a high probability you have the same condition. But the severity can vary even between identical twins. So I might need surgery too? Let's take this one step at a time. First, we stabilize Emma and schedule her surgery. Then we run comprehensive tests on you." After Dr. Okonkwo left, I sat with the girls in that too-quiet room and tried to find words that would make this less terrifying. "I know this is scary," I said, "but Dr. Okonkwo is one of the best pediatric cardiologists in the country. I've already looked her up. She's performed hundreds of these surgeries. I don't want to die like our birth mom," Emma whispered. "You're not going to die. We caught this early. Your birth mother didn't know she had a problem until it was too late." But what if something goes wrong during surgery? I couldn't lie to her. Then we deal with it. But Emma, if we don't do the surgery, something will definitely go wrong. This way, we have a chance to fix the problem before it gets worse. Will you be there? When they do it. Every second that they'll let me. Lily leaned against my shoulder. What about the court thing? The custody hearing is tomorrow. I'd forgotten. In the chaos of Emma's collapse, I'd completely forgotten we were supposed to be in court in less than 12 hours. "I'll handle it," I said, though I had no idea how. At 5 in the morning, I called Thomas Wright and explained the situation. "This changes everything," he said immediately. "Emma needs specialized care, long-term cardiac monitoring, access to top medical facilities. That's an argument in your favor. You have the resources to provide that care." "I'm not using a sick child to win a custody case," I snapped. "I'm not suggesting you exploit her condition. I'm suggesting you point out the reality that she has complex medical needs and you're equipped to meet them. Diane Sheffield is a middle-class woman with good health insurance. You're a billionaire with access to any specialist in the world. That matters." He was right, but it felt dirty. Still, if it meant keeping the girls together and getting Emma the care she needed, I'd use whatever advantage I had. The custody hearing was postponed to the following week due to Emma's medical emergency. Diane Sheffield's lawyer tried to argue that the postponement was just a delay tactic, but when the judge heard that Emma was in the hospital with a life-threatening heart condition, he shut that down immediately. Emma's surgery was scheduled for 4 days later. For days of watching her hooked up to monitors, of jumping every time an alarm beeped, of trying to stay positive while my insides churned with terror. And in those 4 days, everything I thought I knew about this case fell apart. It started with Lily's genetic testing. Dr. Okonkwo called me into her office with results that made no sense. "Lily doesn't have hypertrophic cardiomyopathy," she said. "Her heart is completely normal. But they're identical twins. How is that possible?" "It's not. Identical twins share the same DNA. If one has a genetic condition, the other should have it too, at least at the genetic level. The expression might be different, but the genes should be the same." My mouth went dry. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that either Emma and Lily aren't identical twins, or they're not biological sisters at all." The world tilted. Could there be a mistake with the test? "We ran it twice. Mr. Reed, I think you need to do a full DNA panel on both girls. Because something doesn't add up." I authorized the tests immediately, my mind racing. If Emma and Lily weren't biological twins, then everything Stephanie had told me was wrong. The birth certificates, the story about the Thorntons, all of it. The DNA results came back the next day. Emma and Lily shared approximately 50% of their DNA. They were sisters but fraternal, not identical. And their genetic markers didn't match the samples on file from David and Margaret Thornton's medical records, which meant they weren't the Thornton twins at all. I sat in the hospital cafeteria at 2 in the morning, staring at the DNA report while my entire understanding of the situation crumbled. Stephanie had lied, or she'd been lied to, or something far more complicated was going on. I called my private investigator, a woman named Rachel Kim who'd been digging into the original Thornton case. "I need you to find out everything you can about Emma and Lily's real origins," I said. "Birth records, hospital records, anything. Because they're not who we thought they were." "I'm already on it," Rachel said. "Jonathan, I think Stephanie was running a bigger con than we realized. I've been tracing her movements from 5 years ago. She didn't adopt those girls from a foster home in this state. She got them from somewhere else, possibly even another country. And there's no— This woman, was her name Stephanie Hartley? No, she used a different name, but I remember her because she was so specific about what she wanted. Twin girls, ages 2 to 4, no significant medical issues. She had all the right paperwork. We thought she was giving those girls a good home. She did, I said quietly. She loved them very much. I'm glad. We always wondered what happened to them. When St. Catherine's closed, we lost track of so many children. After the call ended, I sat there processing. Emma and Lily weren't twins. They weren't the Thornton heiresses. They were just two sisters from an orphanage who looked alike enough that Stephanie had seen an opportunity. But opportunity for what? If she knew they weren't the real Thornton twins, why create such an elaborate lie? The answer came from an unexpected source. Detective Hill showed up at the hospital that afternoon with a file folder and a grim expression. "We need to talk about Stephanie Hartley," he said, "because we've been digging into her background, and she's not who she claimed to be either." He opened the folder and spread out documents on the waiting room table. Stephanie Hartley is a fake name. Her real name was Stephanie Morrison, and she was a grifter with a record going back 15 years. Fraud, identity theft, running adoption scams. She'd done time for convincing wealthy couples they could adopt babies that didn't exist. "No," I said. "That's not possible. She was Catherine's friend." "Was she?" "I pulled your wife's college records. There's no Stephanie in any of her classes, no mention of her in yearbooks or alumni registries. Mr. Reed, I think this woman targeted you. She researched your wife, built a fake identity as her best friend, and then waited until Catherine was dying to make her move." "But why? What was she trying to get?" "Access to you, to your money. Think about it. She shows up at your wife's bedside claiming to be her oldest friend. She makes promises about children. Then she disappears for 5 years, just long enough for you to grieve and isolate yourself. And then, when she's dying, she sends you 2 girls and a story designed to pull at your heartstrings." "The girls are real," I said. "Whatever Stephanie's motives were, Emma and Lily are real children who need help." "Are they Emma and Lily? Or is that just another layer of the con?" I looked through the window to where the girls were watching TV together. Emma hooked up to monitors, Lily curled protectively at her side. "I don't care what their names are," I said. "I don't care if Stephanie was running a con or trying to do something good in a twisted way. Those girls are innocent in all of this, and they need someone to fight for them. Even though the custody case is based on a lie, even though Diane Sheffield is fighting to adopt children who aren't who you said they were. Diane Sheffield doesn't know them. She's fighting for the memory of her friend's children, not for Emma and Lily themselves." Detective Hill studied me for a long moment. "You really love them, don't you? More than anything. Then you better get a damn good lawyer, because when this comes out, you're going to need one. Fraud, even unintentional, has consequences." He left, and I sat in that waiting room trying to figure out how to tell 2 little girls that everything they thought they knew about themselves was a lie, that they weren't heiresses to a fortune, that their birth parents weren't who Stephanie had claimed, that their entire origin story had been fabricated, and that tomorrow, Emma was going into surgery to fix a heart condition while I tried to figure out how to save both of them from a legal nightmare that was spiraling further out of control every day. I went back to their room. Emma was dozing, but Lily was awake, watching me with those 2 old eyes. "Something's wrong," she said. "Something besides Emma's heart. I'd never lied to these girls, and I wasn't going to start now." "Yes," I said. "Something's wrong, but we're going to fix it. I promise you, whatever happens, we're going to fix it." "Are we going to lose you?" "No, you're never going to lose me. I don't care what any court says or what any DNA test shows. You're my daughters, and I'm going to fight for you with everything I have." She climbed into my lap, something she hadn't done before, and buried her face in my shoulder. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Me too," I admitted. "But we're going to be brave together, okay?" That night, I made a decision. I called Thomas Wright and told him everything. The DNA tests, the orphanage, Stephanie's real identity, all of it. "We're going to the judge tomorrow before the custody hearing," I said. "We're going to tell the truth, the whole truth, and we're going to ask for emergency guardianship on the basis that these girls need stability and medical care, not because of who their parents were. That's a huge risk, Jonathan. You could lose them entirely. I could lose them by staying silent too. At least this way, I'm being honest. Diane Sheffield's lawyer is going to eat you alive. Let them. I can take it. But Emma and Lily can't take any more uncertainty. They can't take any more lies. The next morning, 4 hours before Emma's surgery, we went before Judge Patricia Morrison in her chambers. Thomas presented all the evidence, the DNA tests, the orphanage records, Stephanie's criminal background, everything. Judge Morrison listened without expression. When we were finished, she sat back in her chair and studied me. Mr. Reed, do you have any idea what kind of mess you've walked into? Yes, Your Honor. These girls aren't the Thornton twins. They have no claim to that estate. The entire basis of your custody petition is fraudulent. The basis of my custody petition is that I care about 2 little girls who've been lied to and used their entire lives, and who deserve someone who wants them for themselves, not for what they represent. And Mrs. Sheffield? What happens to her petition? She's fighting for ghosts, Your Honor. The children she thinks she's trying to honor don't exist, at least not where we can find them. Emma and Lily are real flesh and blood girls who are here right now, and one of them is having open heart surgery in 3 hours. So you want me to grant you guardianship of children you've known for 2 weeks, who aren't who you thought they were, based entirely on emotional attachment? Yes, I said simply. That's exactly what I'm asking. Judge Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I'm going to table the custody decision until after Emma's surgery. But Mr. Reed, you need to understand. The state has an obligation to investigate this situation thoroughly. There are questions about where these girls really came from, about Stephanie Morrison's motives, about why she targeted you specifically. Until we have answers, I can't in good conscience place them permanently with anyone. What about temporarily? I'm granting you emergency foster placement for the duration of Emma's medical crisis. You'll have supervised custody, with regular check-ins from child services. But this is not adoption, and it's not permanent guardianship. This is making sure those girls have someone familiar while one of them is in the hospital. Am I clear? Crystal clear, Your Honor. Thank you. It wasn't everything I wanted, but it was enough for now. I went back to the hospital and told Emma and Lily that I was going to be with them through the surgery and after, that they were coming home with me once Emma recovered, even if it was only temporary. And then what? Emma asked. She was being prepped for surgery, her small body covered in antiseptic wash, her hair tucked into a surgical cap. Then we figure out the rest together, I said. One day at a time. They wheeled Emma away to surgery at noon. Lily and I sat in the waiting room holding hands, counting down the hours. 5 hours, they said. 5 hours to fix Emma's heart. For hours my phone rang. Rachel Kim. Jonathan, I found something. Something big. Can it wait? Emma's in surgery. It can't wait. I found the real Thornton twins. Everything else fell away. Where? Australia. They've been living with their maternal aunt for the past 5 years. She has legal guardianship, though it was never officially recognized in the U.S. courts. When the girls disappeared from foster care, she seized the opportunity to take them out of the country and raise them herself. She didn't want them caught up in the custody battle or the money. Does she know about the trust fund? She knows. She's been fighting to have it released to her. But the U.S. courts won't recognize her guardianship without the girls being present. It's a legal stalemate. So the real Thornton twins are alive and well in Australia, and Emma and Lily are just 2 girls from an orphanage that Stephanie used as pawns in some kind of con? That's what it looks like. But Jonathan, there's more. I tracked down Stephanie's financials. In the 5 years she had the girls, she never touched your money. She never asked you for anything. She lived modestly, worked as a teacher, spent her savings on raising them. Whatever con she was running, it wasn't about money. Then what was it about? I think it was about redemption. Stephanie Morrison went to prison for adoption fraud. She destroyed families, sold fake babies to desperate couples. Maybe taking Emma and Lily from that orphanage and raising them as her own was her way of trying to do something good. And when she got sick, she thought of you. A wealthy man who'd lost his wife and wanted children. Maybe she thought she was giving you all a second chance. Or maybe Catherine had gotten to her somehow. Maybe my wife really had planned this, had somehow connected with Stephanie Morrison during her final months and convinced a con artist to do one good thing. I'd never know. Stephanie was dead, and her motives died with her. The surgeon came out at 5:30. The surgery went well. Emma's in recovery. She'll need to stay in the hospital for about a week, and then several months of careful monitoring, but her prognosis is excellent. I nearly collapsed with relief. That night, I sat beside Emma's hospital bed while she slept off the anesthesia. Lily was curled up in the chair next to me, finally resting after hours of terrified waiting. And I made a promise to my wife, to Stephanie, and to whatever force had brought these girls into my life. I was going to finish this. I was going to find out the whole truth about who Emma and Lily really were. I was going to make sure they got whatever inheritance or support they were entitled to, even if it wasn't $30 million. And I was going to fight to be their father, not because of any scheme or plan, but because they were mine in every way that mattered. The custody battle was far from over. The truth about the real Thornton twins would come out. Diane Sheffield would have to be told that everything she'd been fighting for was based on a lie. But right now, in this moment, I had 2 daughters sleeping safely nearby. And that was enough. Emma came home from the hospital 9 days after her surgery. Still weak but healing. Home was my house. The sprawling place I'd bought with Catherine that had felt like a mausoleum for 3 years. Suddenly, with 2 girls racing through the halls, it felt alive again. But the reprieve was temporary. 3 days after Emma's discharge, Diane Sheffield's lawyer filed an emergency motion. They'd found out about the DNA tests, about the orphanage, about everything. And they were arguing that I'd knowingly committed fraud by claiming Emma and Lily were the Thornton twins. They're trying to paint you as a con artist who used 2 vulnerable children to access a $30 million trust fund, Thomas explained over the phone. They're calling for an investigation, criminal charges, and immediate removal of the girls from your custody. I never touched that trust fund. I never even tried. Doesn't matter. The optics are terrible. Billionaire finds 2 orphans, convinces everyone they're missing heiresses, gains custody just in time to access their inheritance. It's a compelling narrative. It's also completely false. Truth and perception are 2 different things in court. The emergency hearing was set for the following week. In the meantime, Child Services increased their supervision. Rebecca Chin started coming by daily, watching how I interacted with the girls, checking that Emma was following her cardiac rehab protocol, asking increasingly pointed questions about my relationship with Stephanie. "I need you to be completely honest with me," she said one afternoon while the girls were doing homework in the next room. "Did you know Stephanie Morrison before your wife died?" "No. I'd never heard of her before the day Emma and Lily showed up at the cemetery." "And your wife never mentioned planning an adoption or arrangement with anyone?" "Never. Rebecca, I've told you everything I know. I'm not hiding anything." "Then help me understand why a con artist with a record would spend 5 years raising 2 children she had no biological connection to, only to hand them over to you right before she died. What's the end game? Maybe there isn't one. Maybe she really was trying to do something good." Rebecca looked skeptical. "In my experience, people don't change that fundamentally. Stephanie Morrison spent her career running adoption scams. Why would this be different?" I didn't have an answer she'd accept. The truth was I didn't know, and that uncertainty was going to destroy my custody case. The media had gotten hold of the story. Headlines screamed about fraud and missing heiresses and billionaires exploiting orphans. Reporters camped outside my house. Someone leaked photos of Emma and Lily, and suddenly their faces were all over the news. I had to explain to them why they couldn't go outside, why they had to keep the curtains closed, Why strangers were shouting questions whenever we left for Emma's medical appointments. Are we in trouble? Lily asked one night. She'd been picking at her fingernails again, and they were ragged and bleeding. No, sweetheart, you haven't done anything wrong. But people are mad at us. They're mad at the situation. They're confused and looking for someone to blame. But you and Emma are innocent in all of this. What if the judge decides we can't stay with you? It was the question I'd been dreading. Then we'll deal with it. But I'm going to fight as hard as I can to keep you. What about the real Thornton twins? Emma asked. She'd been quiet, recovering from surgery, but I could see her mind working. If they're alive, do they get the money? Yes, the trust fund belongs to them. And we don't get anything? You get me, I said firmly. You get a home and safety and someone who loves you. The money was never what mattered. But I could see doubt in their eyes. They'd been told for years that they were special, that they were heiresses, that they had birth parents who'd loved them. Now all of that was being stripped away, and they were just two orphans with an uncertain future. The worst blow came from an unexpected source. A woman named Patricia Okonkwo, no relation to Emma's cardiologist, came forward claiming to be Emma and Lily's birth mother. She'd seen them on the news and recognized them, she said. She'd surrendered them to St. Catherine's Orphanage 8 years ago when they were infants, and she'd regretted it every day since. I was 17, she told the reporters who swarmed her. I was addicted to drugs, homeless, and I thought giving them up was the right thing. But I've been clean for 6 years. I have a job, an apartment, a stable life, and I want my daughters back. The DNA test confirmed it. Patricia Okonkwo was Emma and Lily's biological mother. I watched the news coverage with a growing sense of doom. She looked good on camera, tearful but composed, talking about her recovery and redemption, about how she'd gotten her life together and never stopped thinking about her baby girls. This changes everything, Thomas said when I called him. A biological parent has rights that supersede almost everything else. If she's stable and can provide adequate care, she abandoned them. She gave them up. And she's allowed to petition to get them back. Especially now that you're not their legal guardian, just their temporary foster placement. Jonathan, if she pushes this, you could lose them. I went numb. After everything, the surgery, the media circus, the custody battle with Diane Sheffield, I was going to lose Emma and Lily to a woman who'd surrendered them 8 years ago and only reappeared when they were all over the news. I had to tell the girls. They deserved to hear it from me. We sat together in the living room. Emma still moving carefully because of her healing sternum. Lily pressed against my side like she could prevent what was coming through physical proximity alone. There's something I need to tell you, I started. We saw the news, Emma said flatly. We know. You know about Patricia Okonkwo? Our birth mom. Lily said it like the words tasted bad. The one who gave us away. She says she wants you back. She says she's been clean and sober for 6 years, and that she's ready to be your mother. We don't even know her, Emma said. We don't remember her at all. I know, but legally she has rights. And if she can prove she's stable and capable of taking care of you. No. Lily's voice was fierce. No, we're not going to live with her. We're staying with you. It might not be up to us, sweetheart. Then we'll run away. Emma and I will run away and hide where nobody can find us. That won't work. And besides, you can't run. Emma needs medical monitoring for her heart. I don't care, Emma said, and I could see tears forming. I don't care about my heart. I don't want to go live with some stranger who only wants us because we were on TV. You don't know that's why she wants you. Don't we? Emma looked at me with those 2 old eyes. She didn't want us when we were babies. She didn't want us when we were in the orphanage. She didn't want us when Mama Stephanie had us. But now we're on TV and everyone's talking about us. And suddenly she shows up? You're smart. You don't believe that's a coincidence. She was right. I didn't believe it. But I also couldn't prove Patricia Okonkwo had ulterior motives, and my cynicism wasn't going to hold up in court. The meeting with Patricia Okonkwo was arranged for the following day, supervised by Rebecca Chun and held at the Child Services office. Emma and Lily didn't have to attend, but they had the right to if they wanted. "We want to see her," Emma decided. "We want to know who she is." So we all went, me, the girls, Thomas Wright, and half a dozen social workers and lawyers. Patricia Okonkwo was 25 years old, pretty in a tired way, wearing a dress that looked new and uncomfortable. When she saw Emma and Lily, she started crying. "My babies," she said. "Oh my God, my babies. You've gotten so big." The girls pressed closer to me, not responding. "Emma, Lily, I'm your mama," Patricia said, reaching out. "I know you don't remember me, but I've never forgotten you. Not for one day. If you never forgot us, why didn't you try to find us before?" Emma asked. Patricia flinched. "I was sick, baby. I was using drugs, and I wasn't capable of taking care of you. But I got clean. I've been in recovery for 6 years. I have a job at a grocery store, and I have an apartment, and I've been saving money. I'm ready to be your mother now." "We already have a dad," Lily said, gripping my hand. "We don't need you. He's not your dad, sweetheart. He's a stranger who's been taking care of you temporarily. I'm your mother. I'm your family. Stephanie was our family. Mama Catherine was our family. Jonathan is our family. You're just the person who gave birth to us." Rebecca intervened. "Girls, I know this is difficult, but Patricia has rights. If she can demonstrate that she's capable of providing a stable home—" "I can," Patricia interrupted. "I have everything ready. A 2-bedroom apartment, beds for them, clothes, school supplies. I've been preparing for this since the moment I saw them on the news." "See," Emma said to me quietly. "She only wants us because we were on TV." The meeting lasted an hour. Patricia talked about her recovery, her job, her apartment. She showed us photos on her phone. A small but clean living space, twin beds with new comforters, a kitchen stocked with food. She'd really prepared. And that made it worse somehow because it meant she was serious. After the meeting, Thomas pulled me aside. "She's going to file for custody. Her lawyer is already drawing up the paperwork. Can we fight it? On what grounds? She's their biological mother. She's been clean for years. She has stable housing and employment. Unless we can prove she's unfit. She abandoned them. Isn't that proof enough? Not if she can demonstrate that she's changed. Redemption narratives play well in family court, Jonathan. The judge will want to believe that a mother can turn her life around and reunite with her children. What about what the children want? Emma and Lily are 7 and 8 years old. Their wishes will be considered, but they're not determinative. If the judge believes Patricia can provide adequate care, their preference for staying with you might not be enough. I drove home in silence while Emma and Lily sat in the back seat, holding hands like they always did. "We're not going to live with her," Emma said. "I don't care what any judge says." "Emma, no. Listen to me. Lily and I have been through enough. We lost our first family, we were hurt in foster care, Mama Stephanie died, and now you're trying to keep us. We finally have someone who wants us for real, not because of money or because we're on TV or because of some promise. You want us because you love us. We're not giving that up. I'm going to fight for you," I promised, "with everything I have. What if it's not enough?" I didn't have an answer. That night, after the girls were asleep, I sat in Catherine's old study and pulled out her journals. I'd been avoiding them for 3 years, but suddenly I needed to hear my wife's voice, even if it was just words on a page. I found an entry from 6 months before she died. Jonathan won't talk about the future anymore. He can't bear to imagine life without me, so he lives in denial, pretending we have all the time in the world. But I can't afford denial. I have to plan. I have to make sure he's not alone. I've been talking to someone. I can't write her name in case Jonathan finds this journal. She's made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but she understands what it means to want redemption. She's promised me she'll help, that she'll find a way to give Jonathan what we both wanted. Asterisk. Asterisk, I don't know if I can trust her, but I'm running out of time and options. I have to believe that love finds a way, even after death. Asterisk. There it was. Catherine had known Stephanie or known of her. They'd made some kind of plan together. My wife had been part of this from the beginning. But what had she actually agreed to? Had she known Stephanie would use fake children? Had she thought they'd be the real Thornton twins? Or had she just been desperate to give me some kind of family, any family, and hadn't asked too many questions? I'd never know. Both women were dead, their secrets buried with them. The custody hearing with Patricia Okonkwo was scheduled for 2 weeks out. In the meantime, supervised visitations were arranged. Patricia would come to my house twice a week to spend time with the girls, building a relationship. Those visits were torture. Emma and Lily were polite but cold, answering Patricia's questions in monosyllables, not engaging with her attempts to connect. Patricia would bring gifts, stuffed animals, books, art supplies, and the girls would accept them with forced thank yous and then ignore them. "They hate me," Patricia said after the 3rd visit, tears streaming down her face. "My own daughters hate me." "They don't know you," Rebecca said gently. "This takes time." "How much time? How long do I have to keep coming here and being rejected by my own children?" "As long as it takes." But I could see Patricia's frustration growing. And I could see something else too. A calculating look in her eyes when she thought no one was watching. She'd glance around my house, taking in the expensive furniture, the art on the walls, the obvious wealth. And I'd catch her looking at the girls not with love, but with something that looked like possession. Rachel Kim was still investigating. She'd been digging into Patricia Okonkwo's background, trying to find something we could use. "She's been clean for 6 years. That part checks out," Rachel reported. "But Jonathan, her finances are weird. She works at a grocery store making minimum wage, but she's been making regular deposits into her bank account that don't match her salary. Where's the money coming from? That's what I'm trying to figure out. It could be under-the-table income, or someone could be paying her. To do what? That's the question." But it started about 2 months ago, right around when Emma and Lily first appeared on the news as the possible Thornton twins. My blood ran cold. Someone's paying her to claim them. Maybe. I can't prove it yet, but I'm working on it. Meanwhile, Diane Sheffield hadn't given up either. Her lawyer was still pushing for custody, arguing that even if the girls weren't the Thornton twins, Diane could provide a stable 2-parent home that I couldn't match as a single man. I was fighting a war on 3 fronts: against Patricia Okonkwo, against Diane Sheffield, and against the state's own investigation into whether I'd knowingly participated in Stephanie's fraud. And I was losing. Emma's health was suffering. The stress was affecting her recovery, causing irregular heartbeats that terrified her cardiologist. Lily had stopped eating properly, her anxiety manifesting in constant nausea. "This is killing them," I told Rebecca after Emma had another episode that landed her back in the emergency room. "All this uncertainty, all these strangers trying to take them away, it's destroying them." "I know," Rebecca said, and she sounded genuinely sympathetic. "But the system has to run its course. We have to make sure they end up in the right place." "They're already in the right place. They're with me." "Are they?" "Jonathan, be honest with yourself. You're a single man with no parenting experience. You work 60-hour weeks. I've cut back to 20 hours. I'm working from home. I'm doing everything I can. I know you are, but that doesn't mean you're the best option for them long-term." That night, I found Emma sitting at the kitchen table at 2 in the morning, staring at nothing. "Can't sleep?" I asked, sitting down beside her. "My chest hurts. Not like surgery hurt, but like my heart is sad." "I know, sweetheart. Are we going to lose you?" It was the question she'd asked before, But this time I couldn't find the comforting lie. "I don't know," I admitted. "I'm trying so hard to keep you. But there are a lot of people who think I'm not the right person to raise you." "Why not?" "Because I'm not married. Because I work a lot. Because I've never been a father before. Because they think someone like Diane Sheffield, who has a husband and other kids, would be better. Or because they think you should be with your biological mother, even though you don't know her." Emma was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Mama Stephanie told me once that family isn't about blood or marriage certificates or any of that stuff. She said family is about who shows up, who stays, who fights for you even when it's hard." She was a smart woman. "You've showed up every single day since we met you. You stayed with me through my whole surgery. You're fighting for us even though it would be easier to let us go. That makes you our dad, no matter what any judge says." I pulled her into a hug, careful of her healing chest, and let myself cry for the first time since this whole nightmare began. Because she was right. I was their father in every way that mattered. And I was going to lose them anyway. The break came from the most unlikely source. I was sitting in Dr. Okonkwo's office for Emma's 2-week post-surgery checkup when my phone rang. Rachel Kim, and she sounded breathless. "I found it. Jonathan, I found the connection. Can this wait? I'm at Emma's appointment. It can't wait. Patricia Okonkwo is being paid by someone connected to the Thornton estate." I traced the deposits back through 3 shell companies to a law firm in Boston, Whitmore and Associates. They're one of the firms managing the Thornton Trust. My mind raced. Why would they pay Patricia to claim Emma and Lily? Because if she gets custody, she'll have access to them. And if there's any chance, any possibility at all, that they could be connected to the Thornton fortune, these lawyers want control. They've been managing that $30 million for 5 years, collecting fees, and they don't want to lose that cash cow. But we proved Emma and Lily aren't the Thornton twins. Did we? We proved they're not David and Margaret Thornton's biological children. But what if there's another connection? What if Stephanie was smarter than we thought? What are you saying? I'm saying we need to look deeper. I'm saying there's a reason Stephanie picked those specific girls from that specific orphanage and claimed they were the Thornton twins. Maybe it wasn't random. After Emma's appointment, her heart was healing well, thankfully. I drove to Rachel's office. She had documents spread across her entire conference table. "Look at this," she said, pointing to an old news article. "David and Margaret Thornton died 5 years ago. But before the car accident, Margaret had been undergoing fertility treatments for years. She desperately wanted children, tried everything. Nothing worked. Until finally, she tried a clinic in Vermont that specialized in high-risk cases. St. Catherine's Orphanage is in Vermont." "Exactly. And the clinic Margaret used was run by a doctor named Francis Chin. He was later investigated for conducting unauthorized embryo donations. Essentially, he was taking embryos from couples who'd completed their families and implanting them in women who couldn't conceive, without proper consent or documentation." My mouth went dry. "You think Margaret Thornton received donor embryos?" "I think it's possible. The investigation into Dr. Chun started around the time Margaret got pregnant. The clinic was shut down, records were sealed, and Dr. Chun disappeared. But if Margaret did receive donor embryos, and if she somehow found out before she died, she might have tried to find the genetic parents," I finished. "She might have discovered they'd surrendered other children to St. Catherine's. It's a theory. But Jonathan, if Emma and Lily share genetic material with the Thornton twins, if they're half-siblings through the same donor embryos, they might actually have a claim to the estate. That's insane. That's too complicated. Too coincidental. Is it? Or is it exactly the kind of thing that would make a con artist like Stephanie Morrison pay attention? What if she worked at that clinic? What if she had access to those sealed records? What if she knew which children at St. Catherine's Orphanage were genetically connected to the Thornton twins?" I sat down hard. "We need genetic testing. Not just between Emma and Lily, but between them and the real Thornton twins in Australia. Already on it. I've contacted the aunt in Australia through her lawyer. She's willing to provide DNA samples for comparison. Why would she do that? Because if Emma and Lily have a legitimate claim to part of the estate, it means the trust gets divided. The aunt doesn't care about the money. She's independently wealthy. She cares about those girls having their legal rights. All of them. The genetic testing took a week. 7 days of waiting while Emma and Lily went through their mandated visitations with Patricia Okonkwo, while Diane Sheffield's lawyer prepared for the custody hearing, while I tried to hold everything together with sheer force of will. The results came back on a Wednesday afternoon. Emma and Lily were half-siblings to the Thornton twins. They shared the same genetic mother, a woman who donated eggs to Dr. Chen's clinic 15 years ago and had no idea what had happened to them. Margaret Thornton had received 2 of those eggs, which became the twins now living in Australia. Another set of eggs had gone to a woman who later surrendered the resulting children, Emma and Lily, to St. Catherine's Orphanage. They're not the Thornton twins, Thomas Wright said, reviewing the results. But they're genetic half-siblings, which in some states creates a familial relationship that could entitle them to inheritance rights. Does Vermont recognize that? We're in uncharted legal territory. This has never been tested in court before. But Jonathan, if we present this evidence, everything changes. Emma and Lily go from being orphans caught up in a con to being legitimate claimants to a portion of the Thornton estate. How much? Legally? Could be anywhere from nothing to an equal share. We'd have to argue that they're family under the law, even though they're not biologically David and Margaret's children. It's going to be complicated and expensive and could take years. But it's leverage. It's leverage, Thomas agreed. Against Patricia Okonkwo, against the lawyers who are paying her, and against anyone else who wants to use these girls. The custody hearing was scheduled for the following Monday. We had 4 days to prepare. I called an emergency meeting with Patricia Okonkwo and her lawyer, along with Detective Hill and Rebecca Chin. Rachel presented her findings about the payments from Whitmore and Associates. Patricia's face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Because we have bank records showing deposits of $5,000 every 2 weeks for the past 2 months. And we have documentation tracing those payments back to a law firm that manages the Thornton estate. Her lawyer jumped in. Those payments could be for anything. Consulting fees, research assistance. They're bribes, I said flatly. Someone is paying Patricia to claim Emma and Lily so they can maintain control over the trust fund. Because if the girls end up with me, I have the resources to investigate the estate management. I have the resources to question where that money has been going for 5 years. Detective Hill leaned forward. Ms. Okonkwo, if you accepted payments in exchange for filing a fraudulent custody claim, that's a crime. But if you cooperate with our investigation into Whitmore and Associates, we can offer immunity. Patricia started crying. They said it was legal. They said I was their mother, so I had every right to claim them, and they were just helping me afford a lawyer. They said the girls deserved to be with their real mother. And what did they tell you to do once you got custody? Rachel asked. Patricia's voice dropped to a whisper. They said they'd help me manage the girls' inheritance, that they'd set up trusts and accounts, and I'd get a percentage for cooperating. They said it was better than letting some stranger who wasn't even related raise them. How much did they offer you? $2 million. Once I had custody and once they confirmed the girls had access to the estate. Rebecca looked disgusted. You were going to sell your daughters. I was going to make sure they were taken care of. I was going to use that money to give them a good life. No, I said quietly. You were going to sell them to lawyers who would drain their inheritance over years of fees and mismanagement. And once the money was gone, what then? Would you still have wanted them? She didn't answer. Detective Hill arrested her an hour later. The custody petition from Patricia Okonkwo was withdrawn, and the investigation into Whitmore and Associates began. But we weren't out of the woods yet. Diane Sheffield's petition was still active, and she had no ulterior motives. She genuinely believed she could provide a better home for the girls than I could. The hearing was packed. Media filled the gallery despite the judge's orders for privacy. Diane sat with her lawyer on one side, her husband beside her. I sat with Thomas on the other side, Emma and Lily in the row behind us. The judge, a different one this time, Judge Raymond Foster, reviewed all the evidence. The DNA tests, Stephanie's criminal history, Patricia's bribery scheme, the connection to the Thornton estate. Then he called Emma and Lily to his chambers. "I want to talk to them privately," he said. "No lawyers, no parents, no social workers. Just me and the girls." My heart nearly stopped. Everything rested on what two traumatized children would say to a stranger in a position of ultimate authority. They were in there for 45 minutes. When they emerged, Lily's eyes were red from crying, but Emma looked calm, determined. Judge Foster returned to the bench. "This is one of the most complicated cases I've seen in 30 years on the bench," he began. "We have two children who've been lied to about their identity, used as pawns in multiple schemes, and traumatized repeatedly by a system that's supposed to protect them." He looked directly at me. "Mr. Reed, you've known these girls for less than a month. You have no experience as a parent. You became involved in this situation through what appears to be an elaborate con orchestrated by a career criminal." My stomach dropped. "However," Judge Foster continued, "I've spoken with Emma and Lily at length. I've reviewed the medical records showing how you've cared for Emma through her surgery and recovery. I've read the evaluations from Child Services documenting how you've adapted your entire life to meet their needs. And I've considered the fact that you've spent considerable resources investigating the truth about their origins, even when that truth threatened your own custody case." He paused, looking at his notes. "Mrs. Sheffield, I have no doubt that you could provide a loving, stable home. Your motivations are pure, and your petition comes from a genuine desire to honor your friend's memory. But Emma and Lily aren't the children you knew. They're two different little girls who've been through more trauma than most adults experience in a lifetime." Diane's face crumpled. "What they need right now isn't a perfect home. They need consistency. They need the person who's been showing up for them every single day, even when it was difficult, even when it would have been easier to walk away." Judge Foster looked at Emma and Lily. "These girls told me that family isn't about biology or perfect circumstances. They told me it's about who stays, who fights, who loves you even when you're difficult." He turned back to me. "Mr. Reed, I'm granting you full legal guardianship of Emma and Lily, with the pathway to adoption opening after a 6-month probationary period. You'll have ongoing supervision from Child Services, and both girls will continue in therapy to process their trauma." Couldn't breathe, couldn't process what I was hearing. "Furthermore, I'm ordering an investigation into the Thornton estate and the management of the trust fund. If Emma and Lily are determined to have a legitimate claim as genetic half-siblings, that claim will be pursued through appropriate legal channels. But that money will be held in a truly independent trust until both girls reach the age of 25, with court oversight to prevent any mismanagement." He brought down his gavel. "This court is adjourned." Emma and Lily flew at me, wrapping their arms around my waist. I held them while they cried and laughed and cried some more. "We get to stay?" Lily asked. "Really stay? Forever?" "Forever," I promised. "You're my daughters now. Officially." Diane Sheffield approached us slowly. Her eyes were full of tears, but she managed to smile. "Take care of them," she said to me. "Love them the way Margaret would have." "I will. I promise." She knelt down to Emma and Lily's level. "Your birth mother would be so proud of how brave you've been, both of you, and I want you to know that if you ever want to hear stories about her, about what she was like, my door is always open." "Thank you," Emma said quietly. After she left, Rebecca Chin pulled me aside. "You did good, Jonathan. Those girls are lucky to have you. I'm the lucky one. Just don't screw it up. They're counting on you." "I know." That night we went home, really home because it was ours now. I made dinner while the girls did homework at the kitchen table. We ate together, just the three of us, and it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Later, while tucking them into bed, the bedroom that was officially theirs now, decorated with things they'd chosen, filled with their belongings, Emma grabbed my hand. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Do you think Mama Catherine knew? About us, I mean. Not who we were supposed to be, but who we really were." I thought about Catherine's journal entry, about her desperate plan with Stephanie. "I think she knew you were two little girls who needed love. And I think she knew I needed you just as much. The rest, the genetics, the trust fund, all of that, I don't think it mattered to her. Does it matter to you? Now that we're not the Thornton twins? Now that we're just Emma and Lily from an orphanage?" I sat on the edge of her bed. "You want to know what matters to me? The way Lily draws pictures of our family and always includes Mama Catherine and Mama Stephanie, even though one of you never met Catherine and neither of you knew Stephanie was sick. The way you both still hold hands when you're scared. The way Emma reads 3 books a week and then explains them to me over breakfast. The way Lily hums while she colors. The same tune every time, and I've learned all the words now." "What song is it?" Lily asked from her bed. "It's an old lullaby. Catherine used to sing it. I think somehow you learned it from her, even though that's impossible." "Maybe it's not impossible," Emma said. "Maybe love works like that. Maybe it finds a way to reach people even after you're gone. Maybe it does." I kissed them both goodnight and turned off the light, leaving the door cracked open the way Emma needed it. In the hallway, I pulled out my phone. I had a message from Rachel Kim. "The investigation into Whitmore and Associates is expanding. Looks like they've been mismanaging the Thornton Trust for years. Emma and Lily's claim might be worth more than we thought. Could be as much as 10 million each once everything's settled. Congratulations, Dad." $10 million each. I should have been excited. Should have been thinking about college funds and their future and all the opportunities that money could provide. Instead, I just felt relief that they'd have security. That no matter what happened, they'd be okay. I went to Catherine's study. My study now, I suppose, though I still thought of it as hers. I pulled out her journal and read that entry again. I have to believe that love finds a way, even after death. "You were right," I whispered to the empty room. "Love found a way. You found a way. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you for giving me our daughters." The next few weeks were a blur of paperwork and interviews and therapy sessions. Emma and Lily started at a new school, carefully selected for its trauma-informed approach and excellent special education services for Emma's medical needs. The investigation into the Thornton estate uncovered years of mismanagement and excessive fees. The lawyers at Whitmore and Associates were disbarred, and a new independent trustee was appointed. The genetic testing results were presented to the probate court handling the Thornton Trust. After months of legal arguments, it was determined that Emma and Lily did have a claim as genetic half-siblings. Not an equal share with the twins in Australia, but a significant portion, $12 million each, to be held in trust until they turned 25. The aunt in Australia sent a letter through her lawyer. She wanted Emma and Lily to know their half-siblings, wanted to arrange video calls and eventual visits. She wasn't trying to take them away, just to give them a connection to the family they'd never known they had. We said yes, because family wasn't about competition or ownership. It was about connection. But there was still one more piece of the puzzle missing. I'd been investigating on my own, using resources Rachel didn't have access to, and I finally found it, the missing piece that explained everything. Stephanie Morrison hadn't randomly chosen Emma and Lily. She'd known exactly who they were. Because 15 years ago, before she became a con artist, before she went to prison, Stephanie Morrison had been a nurse at Dr. Chen's fertility clinic in Vermont. She'd been there when the donor eggs were harvested. She'd been there when they were implanted in Margaret Thornton and in Emma and Lily's birth mother. She'd kept records that Dr. Chen had destroyed when the clinic was investigated. And when she got out of prison, when she was trying to turn her life around, she'd tracked down what happened to those embryos. She'd found out about Margaret and David Thornton's deaths. She'd found out about the twins who'd disappeared into foster care. But she'd also found Emma and Lily at St. Catherine's Orphanage, two little girls who shared genetics with the missing heiresses but had no one fighting for them. And she'd made a choice. Not a con. Not a scheme. A choice to give 4 children a chance at family. She'd taken Emma and Lily, knowing they weren't the Thornton twins but also knowing they were connected. She'd raised them with love, telling them about Catherine, preparing them for the day when they'd meet me. And when she got sick, when she ran out of time, she'd done the only thing she could. She'd sent them to the one person who'd love them unconditionally. The man whose wife had convinced a con artist that redemption was possible. I found Stephanie's real grave, not the one listed in the obituary, but the one where she'd actually been buried, in a small cemetery in Vermont. I took Emma and Lily with me. We stood there together looking at the simple headstone. Stephanie Morrison, 1985-2024. She tried to do better. That's a sad epitaph, Lily said. I don't think so, I said. I think it's the best any of us can hope for. That we tried. That we didn't give up on becoming better. Emma placed a drawing on the grave, a picture of our family. Me, her, Lily, and 2 women watching over us from clouds. Catherine and Stephanie. Thank you for giving us to each other, Emma said quietly. Thank you for trying. We stood there for a while longer and then we went home. 6 months later, the adoption hearing felt like a formality. I'd passed every inspection, every evaluation, every supervised visit. Emma and Lily had thrived. Emma's heart was strong, her cardiologist amazed at her recovery. Lily had started an art class and was already talking about art school someday. But I was nervous anyway, standing in Judge Foster's courtroom with my daughters beside me, waiting for him to make official what had already been true for months. Mr. Reed, Judge Foster said, I've reviewed your file. The progress these girls have made in your care is remarkable. Emma's medical team reports excellent compliance with her cardiac protocol. Both girls' therapists report significant improvement in managing their trauma. Their teachers say they're thriving academically and socially. He looked at Emma and Lily. How do you feel about Mr. Reed becoming your legal father? He already is our father, Emma said confidently. This is just the paperwork catching up. Judge Foster smiled. Fair enough. Then let's make it official. The gavel came down and just like that, Emma and Lily were mine. Not my foster children. Not my wards. My daughters. We celebrated at their favorite restaurant, a pizza place with terrible arcade games that ate my quarters like they were going out of style. We laughed and played and ate too much and it was perfect. But that night, after they were asleep, I got a call that changed everything one more time. It was the trustee managing Emma and Lily's inheritance. Mr. Reed, there's something you need to know. We've been doing a full audit of the Thornton estate, and we found some irregularities. Specifically, we found evidence that David Thornton knew about Dr. Chen's embryo scheme. What do you mean? He knew Margaret had received donor embryos, and according to documents we found in his personal files, he'd been searching for the genetic siblings to the twins before he died. He'd found Emma and Lily at St. Catherine's. He was planning to adopt them. The world stopped. He wanted all 4 girls to grow up together, the trustee continued. He'd started the paperwork, made plans to expand their family. But then the accident happened, and all those plans died with them. So David Thornton was trying to do exactly what Stephanie did? Yes, which means when Stephanie took Emma and Lily from the orphanage, she might have been completing David's plan, not running a con. How would she have known about his plans? That's what we're trying to figure out. But Mr. Reed, if we can prove that David Thornton intended for Emma and Lily to be adopted by his family, it strengthens their claim to the estate significantly. They wouldn't just be genetic half-siblings. They'd be intended heirs. After the call, I sat in the dark for a long time trying to process this. Catherine had somehow connected with Stephanie. Stephanie had known about David Thornton's plans. Emma and Lily had ended up exactly where David and Margaret had wanted them. It was too much to be coincidence. Unless it wasn't coincidence at all. Unless Catherine and Stephanie and David Thornton had all been part of some larger plan that none of them had lived to see completed. Unless love really did find a way, even across death and distance and impossible odds. The next morning I told Emma and Lily what I'd learned. "So our birth father wanted us?" Lily asked. "Both sets of parents wanted us?" "Yes, you were wanted. You've always been wanted. But they all died before they could keep us," Emma said. "They died. But their love didn't. Kept working, kept pushing, kept making sure you ended up somewhere safe. With Stephanie, then with me. You've been loved and protected this whole time, even when it didn't feel like it. They were quiet, processing." "Does this mean we get more money?" Lily asked, and I laughed. "Probably. But that's not what matters. What matters? What matters is that you know you're not accidents. You're not mistakes. You're not children nobody wanted. You're the opposite. You're children that multiple people loved enough to fight for, even from beyond the grave." A month later I got another call. This one from Australia. The aunt of the Thornton twins wanted to bring them to America for a visit. She wanted the 4 girls to meet. I said yes, of course. We met at a neutral location, a park in Boston, halfway between my home and where they were staying. The Thornton twins, now 8 years old, arrived with their Aunt Claire, a sophisticated woman in her 50s who had kind eyes. For a moment, the 4 girls just stared at each other. They didn't look identical. Emma and Lily were fraternal twins, and the Thornton girls looked different from them. But there was something similar in their expressions, in the way they held themselves. "Hi," Emma said finally. "I'm Emma. This is Lily." "I'm Sophie," one of the Thornton twins said. "This is Charlotte. We're sort of sisters," Lily said. "Sort of. Want to see something cool?" Charlotte asked, pulling out a tablet. Our birth mum, she kept journals. Aunt Claire gave them to us. There are entries about wanting more children, about finding you. They spent the next hour sitting together, reading Margaret Thornton's words about her dreams of a big family, about how she'd found out about the genetic connection, about how she and David had planned to bring all 4 girls together. "She wrote this 2 days before she died," Sophie read aloud. "David found them. 2 more daughters. Emma and Lily. We're going to bring them home. We're going to be a family of 6. I can hardly believe it." Emma was crying. "She wanted us." "Of course she wanted you," Claire said gently. "You were her daughters, even if she never got to meet you." The girls played together while Claire and I talked. "I'm not trying to take them from you," she said. "I know you love them. I do. More than anything. But they deserve to know their sisters. They deserve to have a connection to their genetic family." "I agree. I'm not trying to keep them isolated." "Good. Because I have a proposal. The trust fund is being redistributed. Instead of the Thornton twins getting everything and Emma and Lily getting a portion, we've agreed to split it equally. $7.5 million each. That's incredibly generous. It's what Margaret and David would have wanted. They didn't care about genetics or legal technicalities. They wanted all 4 girls to be taken care of." She paused. "There's something else. I'd like to set up regular visits. Summers, maybe, where all 4 girls can spend time together. Either here or in Australia. Let them build a relationship." "I think that would be wonderful." Over the next year, that's exactly what we did. The girls became pen pals, video chatting every week. They visited each other during school breaks. They built the sibling relationship that Margaret and David Thornton had dreamed of. And slowly, the pieces of their story came together. Catherine had somehow known about Stephanie's connection to Dr. Chen's clinic. She'd convinced Stephanie to track down the embryo siblings. Stephanie had found Emma and Lily and had learned about David Thornton's plans to adopt them. When David and Margaret died in the accident, Stephanie had made a choice. She could let Emma and Lily disappear into the foster system, or she could complete David's plan herself. She'd chosen to complete it. But she'd also known she couldn't just show up with two random children claiming they were the Thornton twins. So she'd waited. She'd raised them. She'd told them about Catherine and me. And when she got sick, she'd sent them to the one person who'd been part of the plan from the beginning, the man whose wife had started it all. It wasn't a con. It was the most elaborate act of love I'd ever encountered. Multiple people across years and distance working together, some knowingly, some unknowingly, to make sure 4 little girls ended up safe and loved. 2 years after Emma and Lily came into my life, we stood together at Catherine's grave. It was the anniversary of her death, and we'd made it a tradition to visit, to tell her about our year, to thank her for bringing us together. "Mama Catherine," Emma said, placing flowers on the gravestone, "I got straight A's this year, and the doctor says my heart is completely healed. I can do sports now if I want. I won first place in the school art show," Lily added, "and I'm learning to paint. Real painting with oils and everything. And I'm learning to be a dad," I said quietly. "Still making mistakes, but getting better. Thank you for trusting me with them. Thank you for believing I could do this." We stood there for a while, the three of us holding hands. "Do you think she can see us?" Lily asked. "I think she can," I said. "I think she and Stephanie are watching, and they're proud of how far we've come. Life wasn't perfect. Emma still had nightmares sometimes, still needed her door open and her nightlight on. Lily still picked at her fingernails when she was anxious. I still made parenting mistakes, still second-guessed myself, still worried I wasn't enough. But we were a family. Legally, officially, irrevocably. The trust fund had been split equally among the 4 girls, with careful oversight to ensure it would be there when they needed it. The investigation into Whitmore and Associates had resulted in criminal charges and restitution. Justice had been served. Diane Sheffield had become a family friend, visiting occasionally to share stories about Margaret Thornton, helping the girls understand their complicated heritage. Claire in Australia sent regular updates about Sophie and Charlotte, and we were planning a month-long visit for the summer where all 4 girls would be together. Emma and Lily had started calling me Dad instead of Jonathan. It had happened gradually, naturally, until one day I realized I couldn't remember the last time they'd used my first name. We'd created routines, Sunday morning pancakes, Thursday movie nights, bedtime stories every evening. We'd filled the house with their art and their laughter and their occasional arguments. I'd learned about ponytails and periods and the complex social dynamics of third-grade friendships. I'd attended school plays and parent-teacher conferences and doctor's appointments. I'd become a father, not because of biology or legal documents, but because I'd shown up every day, even when it was hard, even when I didn't know what I was doing. That night, after tucking the girls in, I sat in my study, which was finally feeling like mine instead of Catherine's, and wrote an email to Claire. *, the girls are doing wonderfully. Emma's heart is strong. Lily's art gets better every day. They ask about Sophie and Charlotte constantly. I think this summer visit is going to be exactly what they all need. *, thank you for being so generous with the trust fund distribution. Thank you for understanding that family isn't about genetics or legal claims. Thank you for helping me give these girls the connections they deserve. *, I never thought I'd be a father. Catherine and I tried for so long, and when she died, I thought that dream died with her. But somehow, through the most improbable series of events, I got my daughters anyway. *, not the way we planned. Not the way anyone planned. But sometimes the best things in life are the ones we never saw coming. *, her reply came the next morning. Margaret used to say that children have a way of finding the parents they need, even when it seems impossible. I think she was right. Emma and Lily found you. Sophie and Charlotte found me, and together we're giving them the family Margaret and David dreamed of. Asterisk. See you this summer. Love, Claire. 3 years after that first day at Catherine's grave, I stood in a courthouse again. But this time it wasn't for custody hearings or legal battles. It was for Emma and Lily's official name change. They'd asked to take my last name, Reed, not to erase their past or deny their complicated origins, but to claim their present and their future. Emma Reed, the judge pronounced. Lily Reed, may these names serve you well. We celebrated at that same pizza place with the terrible arcade games. But this time, Sophie and Charlotte were there too, visiting from Australia. For sisters, laughing and playing and arguing over who got the last slice of pepperoni. I watched them and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete happiness. Not despite the pain and trauma and impossibility of our story, but because of it. We'd been broken and lost, all of us, and somehow we'd found each other and become whole. That night, after the Australian girls had gone back to their hotel with Claire, I found Emma and Lily in their room, looking at old photos. This is Mama Stephanie, Emma said, showing the album to me, before she got sick. And this is Mama Catherine, your wife. Our other mamas, Lily clarified. The ones who aren't here but are still part of our family. Always, I agreed. Do you think they knew? Emma asked. How it would all turn out? I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe they just hoped, and hope was enough. I'm glad they hoped, Lily said. I'm glad we ended up here. With you. With Sophie and Charlotte. With all of it. Even the hard parts? I asked. Even the hard parts. Because the hard parts made us strong. Right? Right? I kissed them goodnight and went to my bedroom, where I kept one of Catherine's journals on my nightstand. I'd read through all of them now, multiple times, looking for clues about her plan with Stephanie. But tonight, I opened it to a different entry. One from our wedding day. Asterisk, I married Jonathan today. We promised to love each other through everything. Joy and sorrow, sickness and health, all the days of our lives. I meant every word. Asterisk. Asterisk, but I also made a private promise, one I didn't say out loud. I promised that if I can't give him the children we both want, I'll find another way. I'll make sure he's not alone. I'll make sure love continues, even after I'm gone. Asterisk. Asterisk, I don't know how yet, but I'll find a way. Asterisk. Love always finds a way. She'd kept that promise. Through Stephanie, through Emma and Lily, through a chain of events so improbable they had to be intentional. Love had found a way. I turned off the light and lay in the dark, listening to the sounds of my daughters sleeping down the hall, the quiet breathing, the occasional rustle of blankets, the soft comfort of knowing they were safe. This was my life now, not the one I'd planned, not the one Catherine and I had dreamed about during fertility treatments and adoption consultations. But it was better than I could have imagined, because it was real. It was hard-won. It was built on the foundation of multiple people's love and sacrifice and determination. And it was mine. Before I close out this story, I want to talk to you wherever you are right now. Maybe you're dealing with loss. Maybe you're struggling with infertility or adoption or the feeling that your dreams are dying. Maybe you feel like you've missed your chance at the family you wanted. I want you to know something. Love finds a way. It might not be the way you planned. It might come through doors you didn't even know existed. It might require patience and faith and the willingness to embrace something different than what you imagined. But it finds a way. Emma and Lily weren't the children Catherine and I thought we'd have. They weren't the children I was looking for when they showed up at her grave that Tuesday afternoon. But they were exactly the children I needed. And I was exactly the father they needed. Sometimes the best things in life are the ones we never saw coming. Sometimes loss and pain and impossible circumstances create space for something new, something better, something that never could have existed if everything had gone according to plan. If the story moved you, please hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel because I share stories like this, real stories about real people finding hope in impossible situations. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And leave a comment telling me your story, because I want to hear it. Tell me about the unexpected blessings in your life. Tell me about the doors that opened when you thought everything was closed. Tell me about the love that found you when you weren't even looking. Because these stories matter. They remind us that we're not alone. That loss isn't the end. That love really does find a way, even when it seems impossible. 5 years after Emma and Lily came into my life, we took a trip to Vermont. To St. Catherine's Orphanage, or what was left of it. The building was abandoned now, windows broken, walls covered in ivy. But we found the old chapel, still intact, where Sister Mary said she used to braid the girls' hair. We stood there together, and I told them what I should have said a long time ago. "You saved me," I said. "You know that, right? When you showed up at Catherine's grave asking if I was your daddy, you saved my life. I was just existing, not living. I was waiting to die. And then you came along and reminded me that life isn't over until it's over. That love doesn't end just because someone dies. That family can be chosen and built and created out of impossible circumstances. You saved us too," Emma said. "We were so scared that day. We thought we were going to be separated, that nobody would want us. And then you said yes. You kept saying yes, over and over, even when it was hard. That's what love does," Lily added. "It keeps saying yes." We left flowers at the orphanage for Sister Mary, for the children who'd passed through there, for the building that had protected Emma and Lily when they needed it most. And then we went home, to our house, our family, our life. It wasn't the story anyone planned. Not Catherine. Not Stephanie. Not David and Margaret Thornton. Not me. But it was our story. And it was beautiful. That's what I want you to take from this. Your story might not look like you planned. The family you end up with might not be the one you imagined. The path might be longer and harder and more complicated than you ever thought possible. But that doesn't make it less beautiful. It doesn't make it less real. It doesn't make it less yours. Love finds a way, even through grief and loss and impossible odds, even through con artists and corrupt lawyers and custody battles, even through cardiac surgery and DNA tests and media circuses. Love finds a way, and sometimes, just sometimes, the family you never knew you needed shows up at a gravesite on a Tuesday afternoon and asks if you're their daddy. And if you're brave enough to say yes, your whole life changes. Thank you for staying with me through this story. Thank you for letting me share my daughters with you. Thank you for believing, even for a moment, that love can conquer impossibility. If you're out there searching for your family, however that looks for you, don't give up. Keep hoping. Keep trying. Keep saying yes when love shows up in unexpected packages. Because somewhere out there, your Emma and Lily might be looking for you too. Hit that subscribe button. Share the story. And remember, love always finds a way. Always.